Live with CDP Sports Talk, a weekly sports and entertainment podcast sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet. Live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and LinkedIn. And on audio via Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, Anchor FM, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Radio Public, and TuneIn. Now, here's your host, Chris Palme.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Season 6, Episode 33 of Live with CDP Sports Talk, brought to you by Barry Cullen Chevrolet dealership at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Gulf Auto Mall. Check out barrycullen.com for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles, or give them a call at 519-824-0210, or email them at info@barrycullen.com as well. Also, guys, Live with CDP Sports Talk is also on weeknights at 8 p.m. Eastern on WQEE 99.1 FM in Metro Atlanta, the home of Southern Talk and Sports. Good afternoon, everybody, here on this Wednesday, August 9th, 2023, and I'm looking forward to my guest today. His name is Kevin Allen. This is his third time on our show. He is a former longtime hockey writer with USA Today for 34 years, and he's now a national columnist for Hockey Buzz and Detroit Hockey Now, and he also covers the Detroit Red Wings. So we're going to bring on Kevin Allen and talk some Red Wings hockey and a little NHL as well. Good afternoon, Kevin. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
So far, we're live streamed on Facebook, so we'll see how long that lasts. But so some of these new rules with Facebook and news content here in Canada.
Yeah, no, it's one of my colleagues at the Hockey Now group is Bob Duff, who lives in Canada, and he's been explaining to me what's been happening with that. And we see an impact as well because we utilize Facebook to drive traffic, and we really count on them really to sort of disseminate our what we write, and so it's going to be interesting to see how that evolves.
I guess you got to be excited about the Red Wings going into this 2023-2024 season. And when does training camp open up in Traverse City?
Well, they, believe it or not, have not told us precisely. I mean, we have a pretty good idea that it'll be in mid-September. That'll be the rookie tournament, and it'll be in Traverse City, but we don't have the actual days. I think we might see a rookie camp somewhere in like mid-September with the rookie tournament, and then after that we'll see the training camp. But the rookie games in Traverse City used to be one of the big events of the calendar, and now other teams have put together rookie tournaments that sort of rival the Traverse City tournament as well. And so, we used to have like 8 teams, and now I think we could be down to 4 this year.
I think Buffalo is doing that now too, as well.
Yeah, Buffalo has a good one. Yeah.
I was going to say the Sabres and Red Wings could very well be fighting for a playoff spot this year as well.
I agree with that. I mean, I thought, Steve Yzerman doesn't talk a lot to the media in Detroit. But when he does talk, he's very insightful. And, people kind of joke around about, the fact that he's a very difficult read and, he doesn't speak a lot. But if you listen carefully, he does tell you, sort of give you pretty strong hints of what he's thinking. But he said directly last season that he felt, we're not competing with the Boston Bruins and Tampa Bay Lightning and the Toronto Maple Leafs. We're competing with the Boston Bruins and Ottawa Senators, because when we're ready to compete, those are going to be the teams that are going to be up near the top. And, he's right about that. I mean, they're 3 very similar teams in that they're relying heavily on their younger players. They've drafted well. They've got some premium picks, players that were taken very high with Buffalo. There's Rasmus Dahlin, Owen Power. They've relying heavily on those 2 to kind of be the building blocks, the foundation of the team. And Ottawa, of course, has several quality players, including Stutzel at center, Brady Tkachuk, and then of course Detroit their foundation is Moritz Sider, Lucas Raymond, Dylan Larkin as well. Well, I think now, you look at those three teams, and I think it's sort of up in the air of, 2 years from now, who's going to have the better team.
Absolutely. And before we get into some more Red Wing talk, I just wanted to ask you this, Kevin. Thoughts on former Red Wings goalie Gillies Gilbert and former head coach Wayne Maxner, who coached in the Ontario Hockey League as well, passing away recently?
Well, it's interesting with Gilles Gilbert. Bob Duff and I, when we write for Detroit Hockey Now, we made a commitment that we were going to write obituaries for any former member of the Red Wings who passes away. And some of them we've written haven't got a lot of play because, over time, people don't see them play. They don't recognize the names and so forth. And so we were a little bit surprised that Gilles Gilbert just took off because, he hasn't played in over 30 years. But as it turned out, what we didn't realize is just how popular he was. And he played his last 3 seasons with the Detroit Red Wings, but he's really known as a Boston Bruins goalie. He was in net when Guy Lafleur scored one of the most memorable goals in NHL history, off the rush, coming over the line, 79 semifinals, Montreal trailing by a goal. The famous too many men on the ice. Lafleur comes over, plays it ahead to Lemaire. Lemaire drops it for Lafleur, and he rips it, whistles it past Gilbert. And, people just were raving at that time about what a great shot it was. And, today, because the game has changed a little bit, we might have been talking about that was a goal that Gilles Gilbert would like to have back. It was only kind of a long-range goal. But Gilbert, is part of that. Goal. I mean, he's remembered for giving that goal up. Gilbert also gave up, of all things, Jean Beliveau's 498th, 499th, and 500th goal. He got a hat trick against him to get his 500th career goal as well. But had some really good seasons in Boston. And then after he retired, he was involved with the Alumni Association, and he was involved in the game as well. So a lot of people are mourning his loss. And Wayne Maxner wasn't around very long and was part of the just before I think he could have been even the last coach of the Bruce Norris era of the Red Wings. And the team wasn't very good. He was the coach, I believe, when Danny Gare came over in the big trade between Buffalo and Detroit, when Dale McCourt and Brent Peterson and Mike Foligno go, and the Red Wings picked up Jim Schoenfeld, Danny Gare, and Derek Smith as well. And Maxner, of course, was an old school coach. I think that's how people remember him. A lot of today's fans wouldn't know him, but he certainly had a lot of respect during that time when he was a coach.
I remember that trade as a kid, and I still think to this day Buffalo won that trade because Mike Foligno had a really good career. Not that Danny Gare didn't, but I think Mike Foligno had more upside at that time than Danny Gare did.
Well, I would agree with that. That was a really devastating trade. I remember growing up in Detroit and, hearing in the morning radio, it was announced that back then we didn't have around the clock sports coverage. So you woke up in the morning and suddenly that was the news of the day. And it was pretty stunning. I mean, Dale McCourt was the number 1 overall pick. And I think a lot of fans appreciated the fact that he fought. The Red Wings had signed Rogie Vachon, and the arbitrator ruled that the compensation was Dale McCourt. And he fought against that. And that's eventually sort of won because it forced the Kings and the Red Wings to sort of work out a trade. And I believe it was Andre Saint Laurent that ended up going back to the Kings, but they didn't have to give up Dale McCourt. So he sort of won that case. And I think fans also appreciated he never celebrated a goal. He was not the kind of guy I'm sure he wouldn't like the celebrations that they go through now, because he would skate right back to center ice because his dad had taught him, don't show up the other team, act when you score a goal like you expected to do it. So fans liked him, and he was he averaged like 30 goals in the 4 seasons he played in Detroit. And he went to Buffalo, and he was really never the same player. It was okay that first year in Buffalo, but within 5 years, he was off playing in Switzerland, and we didn't see him anymore. So I don't think Dale McCourt was very happy with that trade. That would be my guess. He just never seemed. I think he played his last season in Toronto, if I'm not mistaken.
And I believe Scotty Bowman was the coach of the Sabres at that time of that trade for Buffalo.
Yeah, he would have been for sure. So, and he was looking to shake up his team, no doubt about it. But I was always appreciative of Dale McCourt. He also wore that old style round helmet.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, which I always liked. So, we're really kind of going back in time here and getting nostalgic. But all those are people that were in the when I was a young man and just thinking about a journalism career.
Absolutely. And we'll get to the current team. And Kevin, you've covered a team for a long time, so I wanted to get your thoughts on the 2022-23 Red Wings team and the direction this franchise under the executive vice president and general manager Steve Yzerman.
Well, I mean, I think it's clear that Steve Yzerman is not trying to microwave success. He's cooking it in a crock pot. He's got it on a slow simmer, and he's trying to kind of grow this team in that regard. I think by all accounts, he's really hit it out of the park in terms of his first round picks since he started making those picks. And yet, they're really just a little bit better than they were when he started. It's taken him a long time to get this together. And there's no guarantee they're going to make the playoffs this year. I mean, I think they're closer. And not all the fan base loved all of his free agent picks. But this was a pretty lean year in terms of free agents. And, he was, it could be better next season. But I think they wanted to get tougher. They wanted to add some goals. They got the goals from DeBrincat. And, Steve Yzerman does it his way. He didn't give DeBrincat a 7-year deal. It's a 4-year deal. I think that's how Yzerman feels that the team should be built. So he got his goals. I think he's added some grit with Fisher from Phoenix and Costin from the Edmonton Oilers, who also has some size as well. So I think they're happy about that. And I think I think this was a real calculated plan. They felt like they stabilized their goaltending. I think the Hellberg, what happened to Hellberg getting claimed on waivers 3 times, I think it sort of has changed how all NHL teams look at their number 3 goalie now, because, last year he started in Seattle, and then Ottawa had goaltending problems. They claimed him on waivers, and then they got their injured guy back, and they wanted to send him to the minors, and then the Seattle reclaimed him, and then Seattle wanted to put him down in the minors, and then Detroit claimed him, and then finally Detroit was able to keep him. So the Red Wings signed Alex Lyon and paid him a full NHL salary to be their number 3 goalie. Pittsburgh Penguins signed, of all people, Hellberg to be their number 3 goalie, so that that discourages when a goalie is making $900,000 or so. It discourages teams from claiming them on waivers. So, and now I just see that today, just moments ago, the Toronto Maple Leafs signed Martin Jones. And he has got that contract as well, which is a 1-year deal that pays him the same whether he's in the minors or in the NHL. So I think that's how NHL teams now are going to try to stabilize their goaltending a little bit. And then Kosa for the Red Wings, who's a really good young goaltending prospect. He will be in Grand Rapids this year, learning, I assume, from Lyon as well. And one just prediction I make is I wouldn't be shocked that the reversal of positions of Reimer and Lyon. Lyon played pretty darn well for Florida last year and is still, has a lot of confidence. And I wouldn't be shocked if, that Reimer ends up as the goalie down in the minors and Lyon ends up as the number 2 goalie in Detroit. Just a hunch. But I like Lyon quite a bit.
All right. I was surprised the Red Wings got Reimer, the former Leaf goalie, but I think you might be right about that, Kevin. One thing I wanted to ask you about: do you see a lot of similarities between Yzerman's style from Jimmy Devellano when he first took over the Wings in '82, and how he
Um,
built the team up?
well, I think Jimmy was a little more impulsive than
Okay,
Yzerman is. I think Yzerman's is not that Jimmy is not calculating; he certainly is, but Jimmy was also impulsive, and I think Yzerman has some patience in terms of building. He's willing to wait a while for results, and if you remember, I mean, Jim Devellano used to make trades, and he's admitted this just to keep the team's name in the newspaper back when they were so terrible. And that's not Yzerman's way whatsoever. So I think they are a little bit different, but they're both very knowledgeable guys that know how to build a team. And, I'm still believe that Yzerman's on the right track. I think he's done it the right way. And I think in a matter of time, they are going to be competitive. And when they are competitive, they're going to be set up to be competitive for a long time.
overall, how's the mood with the other media and the fan base in Detroit about the Red Wings going forward this year?
Well, I think the fan base is growing impatient. Just to be honest, I think Yzerman has had a lengthy honeymoon period. I think they believe in Yzerman and what he's doing, the Yzer plan, as it's called. But they want to see some results. It's hard to, nobody wants to see what's going on in Buffalo, where it's been a dozen years and they've been out of the playoffs. And the Red Wings are at 7 now. That's a long time. That means a 7-year-old, someone who was 7 when this all started, it's 14.
Never,
That
never
14.
seen.
Yeah. So it's it's tough. So I think they're growing a little bit impatient. The media, I think, sort of understands what Yzerman is doing, but it's time. Like, you got to show progress this year, I think. I mean, you got to, at least be in contention. The Red Wings were in the playoffs one day last year. One day they were in the playoff position. And I think it's got to be different this year. I think they've got to be in it right to the end. I'm not sure they have to get in for Yzerman to keep his job or anything like that. It's not even remotely close to anything like that. But I do think that people want to see this team to be competitive right from the start of the season till the end.
Absolutely. And last year they finished just under 500, 35, 37, and 10. But they one thing they got to work on, Kevin, is the goal differential. They gave up 279 and only scored 240. So when you give up more goals than you score, you're generally not going to make the playoffs.
I agree, and they knew they had to score more goals. I think they have to score 39 more goals. If you go and look, I think they got to get in the 275 range or 279 in that range. Everybody who scored, the highest scoring teams, with one major exception, the Buffalo Sabres, all got in the playoffs. The Buffalo Sabres just didn't have the goaltending to get it done. They were 3rd in the league in scoring. But otherwise, if you were a high-scoring team, one of the top 12 teams, you got in the playoffs. And I think the Red Wings have to assure, because I think that'll happen again this season, and they got to score, 30-plus more goals. And I think they hope that DeBrincat and then some growth from some younger players like Lucas Raymond getting in the 25-goal range, and other players adding some goals will get them closer to that 275 to 279 range.
All right. The next one I wanted to ask you, Kevin, is just quick thoughts on Tyler Bertuzzi's time with the Red Wings and his trade to Boston, which I was upset about because I've been a fan of Tyler since he was in Guelph, and now Tyler just signed a 1-year, $5.5 million deal with the Maple Leafs.
Yeah, and I sense that there's this is going to be a long-term deal with the Maple Leafs. I think this is what they could give him now, and as soon as he's eligible to be renegotiated with, there'll be even a longer deal. I think at some point Nylander will be dealt, and they'll have a little better, cap situation to deal with. Tyler Bertuzzi was a real success story in Detroit. I don't think he was drafted with the idea that he was going to be a top player, but he ended up being a top player. He plays with grit and gumption, and he can score goals. He's really good in the dressing room. What he wasn't good about was getting along with Steve Yzerman. I don't think they hit it off. And,
wow. Okay.
And that was pretty clear. Like, they didn't see eye to eye on contract negotiations. Tyler didn't. Some of the things that his I don't want to call them antics because they weren't, but just his style just sort of grated, I think, on Steve a little bit. So they never got close on that last negotiation. I think Yzerman was quoted as saying, well, I was there when he said it, that, beyond nothing happened beyond opening day in terms of, a contract negotiation. They knew he wasn't coming back. They knew because they had had tough negotiations with him before. And, a lot of people want to make it about the fact that he wouldn't get vaccinated. That certainly didn't please Yzerman, but I don't think that was it. I think there were tensions before. And I think it was a lot about contract negotiations and just in general in terms of the way his style in terms of how he handled things. But very popular in the room, close friend of Tyler Bertuzzi. I think Yzerman respected his production and his playing style. But I think they were destined to be apart after last season.
It's just going to be weird seeing him in a Maple Leaf jersey when they play the Wings at Little Caesars Arena this year. I'm assuming he'll get cheered by the fans when he comes back to Detroit.
Yeah, I think the fan base loved him. Like I said, I mean, the only real tension is that, this is not like not unexpected. I don't care what profession you're in. You go in any business and there's always somebody and the boss that don't mix. It's just the way it is. I don't care if you're in banking or you work in a law office or you work in a supermarket or on a factory. There's always some people who don't get along with the boss. And I think that's sort of what happened here. But, Tyler is well liked by the fan base because of people loved his style. The combination of guts and goals, that works well for the fan base. His teammates loved him. Like I said, very popular in the dressing room. The tears were shed when he was dealt. There's no doubt in the dressing room. So, yeah, he will be for sure. And the Red Wings will treat him well. You'll see his career celebrated on the big video screen because he served that team well. He went from an unheralded prospect to one of their top players.
Absolutely. All right, Kevin. What are your thoughts on the Red Wings coaching staff under head coach Derek Lalonde and bringing in former Red Wing and former Windsor Spitfire, the boogeyman Bob Boughner as the associate coach for this year?
Well, Lalonde was a good hire. And again, I spoke about this before, but Yzerman always gives you hints on what he's going to do, even if he doesn't spill the beans. And what he said when he started the coach hunt process was, I have found that I feel better about my signings when it's somebody that I know and I have some history with. He had that history with Lalonde. He hired him in Tampa Bay. And I think he felt comfortable with that as well. And they got along well last season. Lalonde might be a little bit too honest for Yzerman. Yzerman prefers to keep run the team as if you were trying to keep state secrets. But I think for the most part, he loved the way that Lalonde wants to play. Lalonde wants to have a team that's hard to play with against. And that's what Yzerman wants as well. And he holds players accountable. He gets in their face a little bit and tells them, this is the way I need you to play. So I think that he was very pleased. And Boughner was a great hire. It's hard on a coach when you get another former head coach coming in as your assistant, because what you're thinking is Yzerman is bringing in a guy that's going to replace me. And Bugner is that guy. But Bugner and Lalone got along famously. Bugner adds a lot to the defense, and Yzerman likes Bugner quite a bit as well. So I think it's been a good setup there. I think they would rate the coaching performance last year as it wasn't, they didn't get in the playoffs, so we won't give them an A, but I would say they were a B plus performance. But I would add this: a lot of people thought that Yzerman was disappointed with Jeff Blashill when he was there. I don't think he was. I think he knew he had to fire him because that's just the way the system works. It felt like the team was, sort of backsliding against, but that just happens. Once he's been there a long time, players just get used to the voice. But I think still today, Steve Yzerman has a great respect for Blashill. He liked working with him. Blashill and he were on the same page. They talked all the time about how the team was performing and what needed to be done on the ice. I don't think Blashill ever did anything that Yzerman didn't like. They were in harmony in terms of how they saw the team, and plus Blashill is a good guy. So I don't think he fired him because he thought he was a bad coach. I think he fired him because he felt that's what you got to do. When your team doesn't perform well at the end, and I think he felt sorry to do it. But I still think he believes that Blashill is a quality coach.
Do you see him being a head coach in the National Hockey League again?
It's going to take a while, I think, to get back because he never had any success with the Red Wings. He inherited a bad team, and he just couldn't dig it out fast enough. And so for that reason, he'll need to stay here with this Tampa Bay group. But it's a good setup for him. Like he and Lalone and Cooper, the head coach of Tampa Bay, are all very close friends. In the summer they get together, and so I think he's pretty happy with his life in Tampa. He, being Blashill, is happy with his life in Tampa Bay. As John Cooper's assistant.
Are you quickly surprised that Mike Babcock is back in the National Hockey League and he's with Columbus?
Yeah, a little bit I am, but I think everybody hopes that he's a little bit different coach because. I didn't know all of that stuff was going on. I knew some of it. I knew what was going on in Detroit. I knew that the Swedish players were not happy with how he treated Johan Franzen. That was clear. That had come out. Most of us had heard that story before about Babcock berating him. I certainly, and what was reported in Toronto, that's conduct unbecoming. That's not acceptable in the NHL. And so, but, it feels like Babcock, did pay a price for that. He lost his job. He had to wait for a while. He's a pretty celebrated coach. Ken Holland once told me he was the most prepared coach he had ever seen in getting a team ready to play a game. So he knows what he's doing. So what we hope is that, Babcock has learned a little bit that, the man you take a lesson from is Scotty Bowman, is what you should. Scotty Bowman survived all those years because he was able to evolve. He didn't treat players the same at the end of his career as he did in the beginning because the rules had changed. And by that, players expected, you to be more professional in how you handle them. You could, be a little harder on them in the 1970s than you can in the 2020s. And, for that reason. So I hope Babcock takes a page out of Scotty's book and it has changed how he treats the players.
It'll be interesting to see what kind of reaction he gets with Columbus when they come into Little Caesars Arena this season as well.
Yeah, no, I expect fans will appreciate that, he was the coach of a Stanley Cup champion. So I think they'll give him a hand. And, really the only player that they've ever had a surprising reaction to was Sergei Fedorov. Fedorov, it felt like, he had turned his back on the Red Wings and just wanted out. And fans, reacted booing when he would touch the puck and everything. But I wonder if it would be different now. I mean, Fedorov was a pretty remarkable player for the Red Wings for a lot of years. So, but we'll see what happens in that relationship over time.
I'm crossing my fingers that his number's retired. It's like the Tigers took for years and decades to retire Lou Whitaker and Sergei Fedorov. Even if he didn't leave on the best terms, I still think he's a hockey Hall of Famer. He's one of the top 5 Red Wings or top 6 Red Wings of all time. So I'm really hoping at some point number 91 will be retired.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen real soon. That's what I would tell you. Just in terms of, I think some people in the organization think that he not only slighted the Red Wings, but it was that he insulted the Ilitch family. So I think for that reason, I don't see it happening anytime soon.
Okay. And just a couple more quick questions, Kevin. Overall impression on the trade with Ottawa to acquire former Erie Otter Alex DeBrincat, and how much of an impact will Alex have with the Red Wings offense and power play, in your opinion?
Well, I mean, he's really a natural goal scorer. The Red Wings don't really have that kind of player. So I think he will have a big impact. And I think he'll be a 30-goal scorer, 30-plus as well. It's going to be interesting to see who they choose to play him with. I would play him with Larkin. But I've seen other people suggest that, you want to balance your scoring, and Larkin has proven he can play with other people. So, why not put him on the second line and then have 2 really good scoring lines? Fair enough. I understand that logic as well. But I really like how Yzerman approached it. I think the 4-year contract is right on the money. He didn't break the bank. You knew he wasn't going to get more than Yzerman, or he wasn't going to get, everything he wanted. But I think it was the right move. I think they had to get a guy like him. And I don't think they overpaid to get him. I think giving up a first-round pick, it's they had 2 for next year. And, I just think, you've got to give up something to get a player of DeBrincat's magnitude. So overall, I think it was an A trade for Steve Yzerman.
Absolutely. And I always enjoyed him when he played for the Erie Otters, and then obviously with Chicago. And last year he had 27 goals, 39 assists, 66 points. Kevin, do you feel he can produce even more in Detroit?
For sure. Yeah, I do think he'll be, closer to what he was in Chicago. I think last year, when you're with a rebuilding team, I think, and he had to make the adjustment too from, he was playing with Patrick Kane in Chicago. So, 2 small guys, and I think he had a little bit of an adjustment in Ottawa. But, this team now in Detroit is leaving the rebuilding stage, and I think he'll be a part of all that.
Any chance, speculation, any chance Patrick Kane, if he's healthy, signs a 1-year deal with the Red Wings?
I don't think so.
No.
I think that that he's either going to New York or somebody, like Florida, where he's got a real chance to play. That's what my feeling is. I think he's already had some discussions with teams, and he has a general idea of what he might do, and he'll just wait, because it makes it easier on the team if they have time to, figure out how to work him into the salary cap.
All right. And we'll wrap this up with the last question. Kevin, can you just tell us who fans should keep an eye out for this year's Detroit Red Wings? Some players maybe
Yeah, no, that's an interesting question. Yeah, I'm actually going to write about this week. I was sort of going to try to make some projections on what rookies are going to have an impact. And, I thought it was interesting. The last time we talked to Steve Yzerman, he made it clear that it's not a foregone conclusion that Marco Kasper is going to make this team. And I think he was just preparing for the fan base for that. And I think that, Yzerman doesn't want to give players a spot on the roster and have them grow into it. He wants to have them earn it and to be fully ready when they get that. So I just think Marco Casper is going to start out in Grand Rapids. I think we could even see Edmondson doing that as well because he's coming off surgery. But I do think both of those guys are going to end up on the team at some point because I think Casper, he's just a very serious young man. And I think that Yzerman appreciates how serious he takes his profession. And I think he's going to work and he's going to end up in Detroit. And I also think there's one other guy that what isn't talked about enough is that they almost brought Johansson up last year before they brought up Simon Edmondson. Not that he is as talented as Edmondson, but he's a real good defensive player, and he's so dependable. They really, really like him. So I think he's another player that's going to get up here. I don't think it'll be at the start of the season, but I think he's going to end up in Detroit. Then the other one that I really like to see, and I think there's a possibility, but I think it'll be later in the season is Mazur. Mazur is a guy that can score some goals. He has a lot of energy and a lot of passion. And I think he's just the kind of player that the Red Wings need. Somebody that can kind of inspire others with just the way he plays. Like he's a guy that is the same every game. He plays every game like it's a playoff game.
All right. Well, it looks like the future is bright in Detroit, and I'm hoping to come down to a game this year as a media member at Little Caesars Arena, and I'm really looking forward to this team. And Kevin, before we wrap this up, where can my audience follow you on social media and your work with Hockey Buzz and Detroit Hockey Now?
Well, we're DetroitHockeyNow.com. That's where our work is there for them, and I'm at by Kevin Allen on Twitter, and also Kevin Allen is my writer's account on Facebook.
All right. Well, again, Kevin, I want to say thank you for giving us some time out of your busy schedule, and look forward to reading some more of your articles, and look forward to the 23-24 Detroit Red Wings.
All right. Sounds good. I appreciate being on. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Kevin. Have a great day.
All right.
All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed Season 6, Episode 33 with Kevin Allen from Hockey Buzz and from Detroit Hockey Now. And he's a former longtime writer with USA Today for their hockey section as well, guys. Before we wrap this up, I'm going to play a little clip of interview with Alex DeBrincat from the NHL Network when the Red Wings acquired him from Ottawa.
Congratulations on the trade and the signing. Take us kind of behind the scenes, how it all went down and how involved were you personally in the whole process?
Yeah, thank you. In the process, I wasn't really, I talked to my agent pretty much every day, but I kind of led up most of the negotiation to him and, just talking to the teams to him. So, but overall happy I ended up in Detroit, and this is really a dream come true to play for this team and, put on that jersey.
Alex, coming home of sorts for you. You're a Michigan native. Talk about your roots. I understand you make your home there during the off season, even at this point.
Yep. Yeah. Grew up here. We bought a house here a couple of years back to come back for summers, and just super excited to be here all year round, and excited to meet some of the guys and start a hopefully successful time here.
You're from Farmington Hills, Michigan. How far away from Detroit is that, and how excited is the whole family and everybody to have you kind of home, so to speak?
Yeah, that's not too far from Detroit. My parents are about 20-25 minutes from Detroit, so they're probably most happy out of anyone. They're super excited to have me back for the whole year, and obviously, their grandson here too. So they get to see him a lot more, and I think they're pretty stoked for that.
Yeah, that's fabulous. A player gets to a certain stage in their career. You've kind of established yourself as an everyday NHLer. You've demonstrated a really consistent level of performance to this point. I'm sure that as you get to this stage of your career, you look around and like a lot of other players, what organization gives me a real bona fide opportunity to win? Why did that end up being Detroit, assuming those elements are critical for you?
Yeah, for sure. I think, you look at the roster, you see the guys they just brought in too. There's a lot of guys who have played in the playoffs for, many years, and, they have that veteran presence. And also you see the young guys that are coming up. There's a lot of great names coming up, and, some guys that have already done it at elite level in the NHL, being so young. So I think that this roster just really, spoke to me, and I think, in a couple of years, hopefully we'll have a chance to be a really good contender.
You talked about being so close to Joe Louis Arena growing up. I assume you're a Red Wings fan. I read you were a Red Wings fan. What's it like now that Steve Yzerman's your general manager?
Yeah, it's awesome. I grew up watching him. He's probably, my dad's favorite player growing up, or for his whole life. And, it's just awesome to be able to talk to him yesterday when the trade went down. And, he's a guy I watched a lot, and, he's had a lot of success in this league. So, he knows what it takes to win. So, it's good to have him as, our leader.
And you've had this with a prior organization, playing with an original six team. Every player to the man will tell you it's a really different fit, a different feel. There's a lot of nostalgia around that. This is your second foray, but you're going home to do it. What's it going to be like for you, Alex, to be a member of this Detroit Red Wings team? To wear that winged wheel, but now to be really a member of the community at the same time.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. I think, obviously growing up watching them play and seeing the success they had, and then there's so much history here, and it's just an added bonus. I'm from here. I think there's a lot of guys that would choose to play here anyways, and I'm just excited to get started and put that jersey on and hopefully have a good year.
All right, so the trade is done. The contract is now signed. So what's the next couple of weeks look like for you this offseason? Any plans?
No, not too much. I got a couple weddings to go to, but I'll probably go down to Little Caesars Arena and meet some people, and kind of meet some of the guys that are still here. Probably do that a couple times, and just continue the summer, keep it on the low, and hang out with the family a lot.
Can you give us a little peek behind the curtain, Alex? I'm always curious to know about the back and forth between you and maybe General Manager Steve Yzerman as the fit, as the longer term plan for this organization is kind of unveiled to you as selling points. How does that conversation go? What are some of the things that really kind of stuck out to you as Yzerman and the club are making their pitch?
There wasn't too much of a pitch. I think, I've done my homework, and, played them enough times to kind of know what they're about. So, but I think just they have a young core, obviously led by Larkin, who's obviously a great player. And, they bring in a lot of good guys this free agency. And I think it just seemed to be the best fit for me. And, like I said, it's an added bonus that it's home for me. So, I'm just really excited.
Well, congratulations on the new deal and heading back home, and we look forward to seeing you in the winged wheel coming up in October. Congrats.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
All right, guys, that was Alex DeBrincat, the newest member of the Detroit Red Wings, acquired from the Ottawa Senators about a month ago. That clip was courtesy of the NHL Network and the Detroit Red Wings, and excited to have the Farmington Hills, Michigan native Alex DeBrincat on the Detroit Red Wings. He's a former Erie Otter, former Chicago Blackhawk, and now Ottawa Senator. And last year, Alex had 27 goals, 39 assists, and 66 points for Ottawa. And hopefully this year in Detroit, I'm expecting 30 goals, 50 assists, 80 points out of Alex DeBrincat as well. But again, I want to say thank you to Kevin Allen, the longtime hockey writer, former hockey writer with USA Today, and now with Hockey Buzz and Detroit Hockey Now as well. So check out Kevin Allen's work. He's one of the best NHL insiders out there as well. All right, guys, just to let you know, season 6, episode 34 of Live with CDP Sports Talk. Tomorrow, Thursday, August 10th at 4 p.m. My guest is Joe Whitbread. He's an MC, a voiceover artist, and a public address announcer for the Western Canadian Baseball League's Sylvan Lake Gulls, who just won again last night, 12-7 to advance to the next round of the Western Canada baseball playoffs. So Joe's going to come on and we're going to talk some Sylvan Lake Gulls baseball. They're out of Sylvan Lake, Alberta. And he's been their public address announcer for a number of years now. Beautiful ballpark, and Joe also does some other work like voiceover work and MC work in that Alberta area as well. So we're going to talk to Joe about that and maybe some mental health stuff as well and social media stuff as well, because Joe is involved in all that as well. So hope you guys can tune in tomorrow, Thursday, August 10th, 10 p.m. or Thursday, August 10th at 4 p.m. Eastern with Joe Whitbread. This will be his second appearance, and I'm looking forward to speaking to him as well. All right, guys, as always, we'll just finish up our podcast show here. As always, live with CDP Sports Talk, a weekly sports and entertainment talk show hosted by yours truly, Chris Palme, is on weeknights from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern on WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key, the home of Southern sports and talk, the heartbeat of Atlanta. The website for the radio station, guys, is WQEEFM.radio12345.com as well. Live with CDP Sports Talk is live streamed on these platforms on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and LinkedIn. And it looks like the live stream for Facebook is working today. I know there's a new law here in Canada with news content no longer being available on Facebook Meta. And yesterday I could not get my podcast show, radio show here on at all. So I was kind of surprised that it worked today. So my show really isn't a news show anyways. It's sports and entertainment talk as well. So also, guys, you can check out my website, beacons.ai/Christy Palme. All my social media sites are on there, and all my digital content and previous podcast radio shows are on beacons.ai/Christy Palme. It's similar to LinkedIn as well, or Linktree. Me bad there. Also, guys, live with CDP Sports Talk is again sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. Check out barrycullen.com for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles, or give them a call at 519-824-0210 or email them at info@barrycullen.com. Summer Adventures event is going on at Barry Cullen Chevrolet right now. 4.99% financing for up to 48 months for a 2023 Blazer RS. So again, check out barrycullen.com as well. You can also follow me on TikTok at Live with CDP. That's at Live with CDP on TikTok. I post a lot of content there as well. StreamYard is the official live stream provider of Live with CDP Sports Talks. If you're into webinars or podcasting, check out StreamYard.com as well. Live with CDP Sports Talk, the audio version is available on these platforms: iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, Spotify for podcasters, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, Spotify, Castbox, LinkedIn, Stitcher, Tuned In, and weeknights at 8 on WQEE 99.1 FM as well. Also, guys, any comments, questions, suggestions for Live with CDP Sports Talk, you can email me at cpalme19@gmail.com, or you can text the show at 519-820-7188. And I'd love to hear your feedback, comments, questions, suggestions, etc. on here as well. And you can also follow me on all the social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, everyone that's out there as well. So, and also, guys, I will be covering the Toronto Argonauts home game this Sunday, August 13th at 7 p.m. against the Ottawa Redblacks, thanks to the manager of communications, Chris Bilinovich. And I will be doing pictures, videos, and some post-game interviews with coaches and players after their game against Ottawa. The Argonauts are 6-1, Ottawa 3-4, and both teams are coming off losses last weekend. And the Argonauts hopefully will have Chad Kelly behind center again. He left the game against Calgary in that 20-7 loss with an ankle injury. So fingers crossed that Chad Kelly will be starting on Sunday. But if you can't get down to BMO Field, which you can with tickets at argonauts.ca, you can watch the game on TSN or listen to the game on the Argonauts radio station, TSN 1050, with Mike Hogan and Ben Grant as well. Again, I want to say thank you to Kevin Allen from Hockey Buzz and Detroit Hockey Now, and the former longtime hockey writer with USA Today, for coming on and talking some Detroit Red Wings hockey for us as well. And again, I want to say thank you to everybody watching this live streamed and all my audio platforms. And it's good to be back on Facebook again today. I guess maybe I jumped the gun a little bit early yesterday with the new rules by the government and Facebook about news content on here as well. So, and that's it. And again, my next live with CDP Sports Talk, guys, Thursday, August 10th, 4 p.m. with Joe Whitbread. Looking forward to speaking to Joe. And then the next Argo Bounce live audio show about the CFL's Toronto Argonauts, Friday night, August 11th, 7 p.m. Eastern, with Nick Small, my co-host, and myself, as we break down the Argos 20-7 loss at Calgary. And we'll break down the game and preview the game against the Ottawa Red Blacks this Sunday night at beautiful BMO Field in Toronto. Again, thank you to Kevin Allen for coming on and talking some Red Wings hockey. And again, thank you to Barry Cullen Chevrolet for sponsoring this show, and radio station WQEE 99.1 FM in Metro Atlanta for airing it weeknights at 8 p.m. I hope everybody has a great rest of the afternoon, and we'll see you back here tomorrow for season 6, episode 34 with Joe Whitbread, again, 4 p.m. Eastern. Have a great afternoon, everybody, and thanks for watching and listening to Live with CDP Sports Talk.